Hey everybody, it's Irene with BrainStormAcres. And I told Henry this morning that I knew it was officially summer because I needed a bigger basket to harvest green beans. So today, I'm going to process green beans. There's all kinds of different ways you can process green beans. And what I'm going to show you this morning is the simplest way. I am simply going to blanch them for 3 minutes in boiling water, and then I'm going to freeze them. Now, the reason we blanch green beans is to stop the enzymes in the green beans from continuing to make them to age. I'm going to break these. They're snap beans, so the ends need to come off. I'm going to turn some of these into chunks. I'm going to turn others into just plain things. And we're going to process them. It's going to be quick. I actually have this morning's harvest, which is right here, and 2 previous harvests. We've actually had a couple of previous harvests, but they've been eaten. So I want to get all of these taken care of today because I'm going to have another harvest tomorrow. So the small ones, like this, I'm just going to take off the stem end and set them aside. Some people prefer to take off both ends. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But I'm going to set these aside because I have another project in mind for them later. The slightly larger ones I'm going to break into 2 or 3 pieces because they're going to become the big clunky ones like that. They're going to become beans that can either be eaten or be used in stir fry. That's enough so that everybody gets the idea. Clean up the frizzles into the garbage here. This is actually the compost recycle. All right, now what I have here is a container of hot water. I'm going to get my timer set for 3 minutes. The water is boiling. I am going to put a big batch of these in here. Now you'll notice I have a large container of water over there boiling. That is for a reason. The larger the container of water, the more heat it will have stored in it. Therefore, it won't drop its temperature huge amounts when I dump these in. Some of these green beans were in the fridge. Some of them were in the yard this morning. When I got up this morning, it was 58 in the yard. So these, even the ones from the yard, are cool. They're not hot. I always try and pick not during the heat of the day in order to get the better quality. So all I'm going to do now is I'm going to dump these in here. I'm going to wait for this to come back to a boil. It's already getting close. And I can always give it a little bit more gas, literally. I'm waiting for it to come to a boil, because otherwise it's not hot enough. There's a leaf in there. Never ceases to amaze me how a leaf will manage to get through. But while I was actually breaking those, I was checking them over. I was looking for bug holes. I was looking for any discolored, funky areas to any of the beans. Now, because some of those beans were from the fridge, it did drop the temperature more than it usually would. The next batch I do shouldn't have as much of a delay. Okay, it's starting to boil around the edges now, so I am going to hit the timer. While it's boiling, I'm going to repeat. Wash, rinse, repeat. And I'm going to do this until all of my beans are processed. But obviously, you don't have to watch me do that. I'm simply waiting for this to be done cooking. And that timer will wake the dead, so I don't have to worry about not recognizing that the timer is going off. I specifically went on Amazon, I guess it was. In fact, I'll have to find it and see if they still sell them. I don't like the sound. It's very jarring, but I can hear it no matter what's going on in the kitchen. And that's a big deal for me because I'm hard of hearing to start with. And with just a little bit of extra noise, I just won't hear the timer go off. And our old timer had gotten a little wimpy in terms of the sound it was making, and I was starting to miss the timer. Not a good thing, not especially when you're doing things that are fragile. And some of the things I do are fragile. And if you could tell, I've done this before. I never did this with my mom. I don't ever remember eating fresh green beans as a kid, to be honest. We used to eat canned green beans, which I find totally revolting to this day. I had to be incredibly hungry to want to eat canned green beans. However, she discovered frozen green beans at some point. They were totally different, a totally different beast, and they were great. So, yeah, I don't ever remember breaking green beans as a kid, though. I don't know if my kids did or not, to be honest. I don't remember. We had green beans fresh from the garden. It was a matter of whether they were helping or not. Sometimes they were off playing with their buddies. I'm focusing right now on the big ones because I want to get those out of the way. Because I know those are all going to be blanched and frozen. Whoops. Some of the other ones will be used in other ways. Sometimes if I have some that are super big, I'll specifically hold them aside to be used for stir fry. I do make more than one size package. I'll make, see what I mean? Wake the dead. Okay. Normally what I try and do is have another batch of green beans totally ready to go in. Now, because I've been talking and doing other things, I don't have that, so I'll actually turn down that water. Draining out as much of the hot water as I can, and I'm tossing it into a container of cool water. Because I want to take that temperature down as quickly as I can so that the beans don't overcook. Now, if you ever cook fresh green beans from scratch, you'll know that 3 minutes is not enough to cook fresh green beans. And how much is enough will depend on your altitude. It'll depend on how tough your green beans are, how crunchy you like your green beans, all that sort of stuff. But the basic idea is that you want your green beans to be slightly cooked, cooked enough so that the enzymes have been shut down, but not overcooked, because you don't want them to turn into mush. Now, when I use things like these frozen green beans in stir fry or regular food of any other sort, I cook them as little as possible at the other end. So I would have the stir fry 90% done, and then I would toss in the green beans just enough to basically heat them up, double check them to make sure they haven't gotten, that they're cooked enough, but you know, not turned into mush. We don't like mushy vegetables at this house. Not hard. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this sit in here for a minute. They've dropped in temperature quite a lot. And I always get very messy doing this, so I frequently wind up with like 10 different things out. But what I'll do once I feel like they've cooled enough in there, and sometimes what I wind up doing is actually sticking ice cubes in there. That's actually kind of the preferred technique. I don't have a lot of ice on hand, so sometimes I have to just cheat and use cold water. And that means I have to change the water more often. So this stuff goes out onto the garden and I water something with it. We're supposed to get monsoon rains again later this week, but for now we're using water that we've paid for. So yeah, there we go. Now I'm going to let these guys drain because I want to get as much moisture out of them before I stick them into the freezer bags as possible. But that's all there is to it. I'm going to stick those in freezer bags. If you, I use the Food Saver style freezer bags. I've already got one end sealed. You could also use, some people like something like this, you know, the hefty bags or something. Make sure you use the freezer ones, not the storage ones, because they're thicker and they're more impervious to oxygen. What you're trying to do is you're trying to keep oxygen away from your vegetables. It'll make them break down faster. So I hope this inspires you. Super simple. 3 minutes of boiling water, cool it down quick, drain it well, freeze it. That's all there is to it. If you want to get fancy and you have enough room in your freezer to do this, you can freeze them on trays and then later put them into big packs that you can reopen and close. We don't usually do that because we've kind of got it fine-tuned. We know how many we're going to use for most things. So I will put in about 3/4 of a cup to a cup of green beans in here, and that'll be enough for us for one meal. If I'm going to do it for a stir fry, I'll probably put 1.5 cups to 2 cups in there, and that's perfect for a stir fry. And I can look when I go into the freezer and know that that's exactly what that was intended for. So I hope this inspires you. Sometimes when I go to the grocery store, they'll have really good green beans on sale. So even if you're not growing your own, I hear from people on Instagram that sometimes they can pick up really fresh beans from a local farmer, from their farm co-op, or if you live near the Amish or somebody else like that, sometimes you can get really good deals from people like that. Where we live, no such thing. It's either us or the grocery store, so it's us. So until next time, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell, because obviously I have lots more going on. There's going to be a ton of cooking this week. I'm not even sure what else we're doing. I know we're doing other things. I have a whole list as long as, you know, that I have to do, but a lot of that has nothing to do with the YouTube channel. So until next time, bye. results of today's blanching: 3 packages right here, big ones, for stir fry, and 7 for regular meals. Lots and lots of bush beans.